Opening a second PT clinic can be a very good thing to do, or it can be the biggest mistake of your career. Here's how to make sure it's the former. If you aren't growing, then you're shrinking. And if you're shrinking, then eventually you'll have to close if that keeps up. So we really think it's very important to be growing at all times, or at least planning on growth. However, for many PTs, opening a second clinic has been a very bad experience. They found that their overall profit declined when adding a second clinic. Certainly, the headaches and the time involvement can be overwhelming unless you have a very good plan. If you do put together a solid plan for opening a second clinic, then it can be an important step toward greater independence, greater security, and a much more established organization that can withstand market changes more easily. In this video, I'm going to show you 9 critical elements that you need to address when considering opening your second clinic. These are the exact same factors that determine whether your expansion will lead to greater success or become a costly mistake. Make sure your first clinic's financials are solid. Sometimes owners think that by opening a second clinic, it can get them out of some financial hot water. They believe that there will be economies of scale and so income will increase, while some expenses don't. However, we see it far more often that when a clinic is not financially thriving and they try to open a second clinic, the problems just become worse rather than better. Make sure that you're making a strong profit, ideally at least 15% profit, before opening your second clinic. Know your key performance indicators, KPIs. Perhaps the most important one to look at before entertaining the idea for a second location is your capacity utilization percentage. How much patient capacity does your current location have, and how close are you to filling that capacity? If you're down around 50% of capacity, then it probably makes more sense to work on growing your current clinic toward 80% before you think about expanding or adding another location. That being said, there are some situations in which a clinic can be thriving, yet it's unrealistic that they will grow much more in that location due to demographics or competition. In that case, it may make sense to move forward with a plan to open a second clinic, even though you aren't close to capacity. Other KPIs that are very important to meet are percentage of referred patients that become new patients, patient reactivation percentage, visits per case, timed units per visit for different payer categories, profit per visit or profit per hour, patient satisfaction scores, overall clinic visits relative to targets for maximum profitability. Number 3, document your systems and processes. Make sure you have great systems and that they are documented in a policy manual and an employee handbook. This would include compliance measures as well. You don't necessarily have to have every single policy and procedure nailed down before you open the second clinic, but the more that is defined, the better. Now, this should be a living document, and as you become aware of new issues or things that you hadn't considered before, or when staff ask you questions, you can add the policy or the answer to the manuals. It's very important to have front desk policies documented. The success of your clinic will be largely dependent on the performance of the front desk. You may choose to outsource some of these tasks to ensure success. Regardless, everything should be documented so that a new front desk person can be trained easily on your best practices. Number 4, have a solid plan to attract new patients. This is probably the first thing that most owners think about, but it bears examining in greater detail. Are you adding a clinic only a few miles away, and so you still feel confident that many of your current referral sources will still refer to you? You may want to confirm this before you assume that they will. Perhaps they have other trusted clinics in the new area that they already refer to. You want to make sure that you're aware of what has given you success so far. You will want to implement those same systems and processes in marketing for your new clinic. The same marketing plan certainly does not work in every single region in the US. However, if your new location is in the same general area as your current location, it can probably be assumed that your current successful marketing approach will work in the second clinic as well. On the topic of new patients, make sure that you aren't overly reliant on one group. It's important that you never obtain more than 20% of your patients from one single group. If they suddenly change their referral patterns, if they get bought out by a hospital, what if they close or a health issue affects that group? Then you may not be able to rely on those referrals anymore. Number 5, choose your location carefully. When you pick your location for your second clinic, there's a lot to consider and you really want to get this right. Obviously, you want it to be accessible to a large number of possible patients. It needs to be easy to find, hopefully near some kind of landmark or anchor tenant in an area. Don't be afraid to go with a smaller size location if you're not 100% sure of your success. You can choose to go with a shorter lease in case you grow quickly and you want to move to something larger. Don't spend a boatload of money on renovations and interior decoration. You can make it look very appealing without spending a lot. 6, have strong accounting support. We have seen business owners who have opened new locations and had issues with taxes. Unless you have a strong accounting background or support, it's not unheard of to not pay sufficient payroll taxes. So make sure you have a CPA or a good accountant behind you who can keep you on track with these components of tax management. There's nothing worse than getting stuck with a surprise hefty tax bill. 7, understand the profit reality. Don't expect that your second location is going to bring you a lot more profit. The chances are in your first location, you are running very lean. You're probably doing most things yourself to start with, but as you grow, you're going to have to delegate tasks of bookkeeping, billing, HR, finances, marketing, all the way through to hiring and retaining staff. And that doesn't even include the challenges of clinical staff. So don't be surprised if you have a slightly lower profit margin overall once you've opened your second clinic, but your overall profit dollars should be higher. 8, plan for staffing challenges. It's no secret that one of the challenges currently is hiring and retaining great clinical talent. Don't assume that it will be easy to find PTs that treat in the way that you want to treat and have the same work ethic that you expect. Consider creative compensation strategies whereby they are paid very highly when the clinic does well. Another option is to provide equity in the clinic after they've been with you for a period of time. This can be very attractive for new PTs, but there are some potential downsides with this. It means opening up your financials to these staff members. It means having to be okay with people disagreeing with some decisions you make. If you ever want to sell, it is a little bit more difficult to get the selling price that you want. Traditionally, those who are acquiring PT clinics prefer to only deal with one seller as opposed to having to negotiate with a series of owners. Finally, and most importantly, make sure you have a very solid business plan, marketing plan, and financial plan. Have experts in the field look at this plan and challenge your assumptions. You'd much rather have to go back to square one and revamp your entire plan than to get stuck in a clinic that's not working. In conclusion, opening a second clinic can be a very good thing to do if you do it right. If you aren't growing, then you're shrinking. And if you're shrinking and that keeps up, then eventually you'll have to close. But the key is to grow strategically and with a solid plan in place. Make sure you have all 9 elements we discussed thoroughly planned out before making the move. It's much better to take the time to create a solid plan now than to get stuck with a clinic that's not working. In my next video, I'll show you exactly how to create your expansion plan, including the specific financial projections and marketing strategies you need to have in place. We'll dive deep into the numbers and systems that make multi-clinic ownership not just possible, but profitable.